Hello, dear friends, and welcome to episode 10 of the Found Humanity podcast. In this episode, I went down to San Diego to interview a friend named Tanner. This past year, Tanner was in a life-altering car accident that paralyzed him from the waist down. He'd been sharing about the recovery journey and his personal reflections on life, loss, and gratitude on social media since the accident, and it was really inspiring to me to see how he'd been handling this loss of physical ability, which was previously something that played a huge role in his active lifestyle. In this episode, we discuss topics including the accident, the challenges it's presented, the lessons it's taught him, his former Christian faith and how his current spiritual journey looks, how he's navigated depression and negative emotions throughout the recovery process, and his hope to inspire and encourage people with his story. Tanner is an incredibly open, thoughtful, passionate, and sincere person, and I hope some of the strength and determination he stepped into this year can encourage anyone else who needs some of those qualities. So without further ado, meet my friend Tanner.
Hey, what's
girl,
good,
what's
man?
new with you?
The hell was that
No, I
supposed to
literally
mean?
cannot understand.
Why is he always
it just
trying
seems
so
like
hard?
she isn't even trying.
Might
So
just be a
why should
difficult
I?
time for him.
I'm pretty sure she knows everyone hates her.
You know, I've never really thought of it that way.
I guess I could see that.
But then I realized I'm just like him.
My friends, this is Tanner, and he is a fantastic human being that I've had the privilege of meeting about a year ago, maybe a little less than that, and came down to PB and visited Marshall, who was in the last podcast, and met Tanner in his backyard, and we chatted, and he's had some crazy life experiences happen in the last year, and so that's why we sat down today. We had some dinner and hung out, and I wanted to give him a chance to introduce himself and explain a little bit about what those experiences were, and then we'll dive into kind of just his story at length. But Tanner, welcome. Tell us about yourself.
Thank you. Yeah. So we'll obviously dive into some of these things that we're going to talk about today, but as an introduction, my name is Tanner, and I am a spiritual being living a human existence, right? And I just wanted to make sure to throw that in there, right? Because I think that is something that you and I both are exploring heavily right now. And I honestly, ultimately think that it is every human's purpose to dive into and explore that path of being a spiritual being, living a human existence, right? I think a lot of people negate and neglect the spiritual piece that is who we actually are. And that's why I think a lot of people are actually unhappy, right? Because we can do all these things that are mental and physical, but it's mind, body, spirit, right? And if we forget that spirit piece, we're not going to be living our true existence of who we're meant to be. So, introduction, my name is Tanner. But more materialistic now, the things that who I am as a being on this earth. I was a personal trainer and fitness professional for a couple years before joining the Navy, where I was a Fleet Marine Force corpsman with the Marine Corps 2-5 Scout Sniper Unit, where I did 7 years there. And then following that, I became a park ranger working out in East County, San Diego, out in the county parks, just working outside with my hands, and ultimately just currently I'm obviously in the season of the accident and re-identifying who I am, finding who I am, shedding all of the old identities of who I thought I once was, and really trying to use this season as a wake-up call and an opportunity to pursue the higher path and higher purpose that I felt called to for a long time, of being a coach, being a motivation, being a helper, being a healer. So that is who I am.
Beautiful. This is our second time hanging out ever, but it doesn't feel like it
doesn't feel
because
like it.
I've followed you on social for the last year, and we've chatted
over the last year, not a whole lot, but just here and there. And I've seen your story unfolding and stuff, and the accident obviously being a main event in your life. So I guess let's start there.
Okay.
You were in a life-changing car accident 6 months ago, roughly.
Yep.
And it impacted your health. So can you tell us what happened first of all, but then just tell us the story.
Yeah,
What
absolutely.
it meant to you.
I think that would be a great place to start because if you haven't picked up already, of course I'm a little nervous. This is the first time that I've talked in front of a camera on a mic. So
Yeah.
anything we can do to just, ease my way out of that. But,
Sure.
so telling the story about what happened is the easiest way to do that. But, I got out of the military, not to backtrack too much, but I got out of the military in 2022, December. So I was out for about a year and a half at this point. I started working a job as a park ranger in East County, San Diego, because I love being outdoors and I love working with my hands. And I knew it wasn't a forever thing, but it was a perfect job for me to be outside all the time, feel fulfilled from working hard, but then find myself again, right? The first time that I met you a year ago, I was expressing to you and Marshall how, for the first time in my life, I felt lost, right? Or maybe not the first time, but I've always had, for a long time, 10, 12 plus years, since 2013, a purpose that I was always going after.
Mm-hmm.
And, when I met you, I didn't really have that. So this is a perfect season. I called it my healing season, right? So I spent a year doing a lot of inner work and a lot of healing. I've had a therapist for about 2 years now and just trying to self-improve, try to find myself, right? So fast forward to now, year and a half later after getting out, throughout being that season, I would say I felt like I was doing pretty well for myself as far as, just working as a park ranger and living my life. But at the same time, I had gotten even though I was driven, very complacent in my ultimate purpose-driven goals that I had, right? As far as helping people. Like I've known that I've wanted to do some type of helping, some type of coaching, some type of motivational speaking, something like that for a long time. But it's fun and dandy, right? To have those ideas, but then you need to take action towards those ideas, right? And I was just so caught up in living the very fast-paced, busy life, seeking adrenaline, seeking sex and fulfillment and chasing girls. We talked about this earlier. Like I had a real issue with that, just like chasing and just living fast. So March 15th, 2024, I was on my way to work. So actually, let me just backtrack one day. The night before, I was up pretty late. I was in school at the time. I was going back to school, taking my science prerequisites to possibly pursue like a health and fitness type job, maybe physical therapy. But anyway, so I was in school, so I stayed up late doing homework that night. And I had also packed for a weekend trip with a group of guys. We were about to go climb Mount San Jacinto. And this was March 15th, so it was still completely snowpacked on Mount San Jacinto. So I stayed up late packing and doing homework because I remember I made a Instagram video pretty late. So I went to bed at like 2 o'clock, maybe 1:30. But I woke up at about 6:30 in the morning on my way to work, made my coffee. I remember that just like anything else. That's about one of the last things I remember.
Wow.
I remember leaving for work that day after having my coffee. I remember driving out of my I have a gate to go through. And that's the last memory I had before waking up in the ICU at Sharp Memorial Hospital here in San Diego.
Wow.
And what happened is I live out in the country on a 2-lane windy mountain road, but the speed limit's 55 miles per hour on most of it. And based off of what I've seen, what I've been told, the reports, the pictures, right? The semi was coming around a blind corner to where they couldn't see me. And then I'm coming around a corner the other way to where I couldn't see it until we met right at the corner. And I wish I knew what happened, but at the same time, I'm grateful that I don't remember a single thing other than drinking the coffee and leaving for work and waking up. It's all blacked out, right? But I had a head-on collision with a semi-truck going 55. And I struck the semi, and just like I said, based off of the reports, hit the semi and then got propelled down a ditch, and I flipped end over end. My seatbelt ended up snapping in half to where I was then ejected out of the vehicle, and they recovered me with half of the vehicle on me, and then they had to lift it up and then having to pull me out. And even though I don't remember anything about it, basically I was awake, kind of, in some type of conscious state when they recovered me, because I saw pictures and I saw the report. And the only thing that I supposedly was saying was, I can't feel my legs. I can't feel my legs. And what happened was I broke my back. I broke multiple spinal processes in the cervical spine, your neck, the thoracic spine, your mid spine, your lumbar spine, your lower spine. So I broke up and down my entire back.
Wow.
But the most significant part of the injury was at T12L1, so mid to low back. It broke so severe that it severed, not completely, but it severed the spinal cord, which left me paralyzed waist down. So from that moment on, I could not move anything below my waist. So yeah, talk about a life-changing incident, right? And that happens to people all over the world every day. We see it on the news, right? There's people who go through crazy things that we all believe would never happen to them. Well, this particular accident and injury for me, in a way, it's perfect that it happened to me, because of the fact that my identity revolved around the fact that a lot of people knew me throughout my life as a very active and very fit individual.
Yes.
I served as a personal trainer for a while, and group fitness instructor, and military, and just like fitness has always been a huge part of my life, like running and hiking and lifting every day, all these things.
And you were a Marine?
Yeah, so I was with the Marine Corps, but I was a Navy corpsman. So I was a Fleet Marine Force Navy corpsman. So I joined actually to be a Navy SEAL. I don't know, we don't need to get into all of that story necessarily.
But physicality is obviously a big piece of that. That's why I brought that up.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's daily PT in the military, right?
Yeah.
And luckily, I already had that mindset going into the military. So, I loved it. It was a great time. Like, just training to, Tim Kennedy says it best, like, training to live, right? So even if you're not in the military, like, I believe, and he believes, and a lot of people believe, right? Like, it is your duty as a man and as a member of the society to be in as best shape as you possibly can to protect yourself and the people you love. You know what I mean? Because you never know what's going to happen. Like, are you going to be able to climb that mountain or pull your family out of the car or whatever, right? Like, so fitness was always a huge part of my life. So then for this accident to happen that literally stopped me, to where, I spent about 3 months in the hospital. Like the first month, I would say, like I said, I could not move my legs at all. And it was just, it was pretty devastating. You know what I mean? Like, it was an interesting, I didn't understand. It's something that I had never thought about before, like spinal cord injury. But, like I went to inpatient rehab, right, where they teach you how to live again with your disability. And, obviously the whole time I was there, I just thought about, I'm going to heal. Because anytime you get in an injury, or you have an injury, or you break a bone, or most injuries that you incur, after X amount of time, you recover. Well, spinal cord injury, it's not necessarily the case. And unfortunately, the doctors, they're pretty much realists when it comes to that. So they don't expect you to, like, you expect yourself to, like, recover fully. I'm going to walk again. I'm going to run again. I'm going to go climb that mountain again. I don't need a wheelchair. Don't even talk to me about ordering a wheelchair, because I don't need it, right? And that's kind of the mindset I had, which is a good mindset to have. But the fact of the matter is it's spinal cord injury. There is no cure, and it's a mystery. People can recover. You can recover, and I've just had to learn how to, you know, live in this new life that I have that is completely different, opposite, and new than anything I've ever known.
Wow.
Right? So, and then there's so many details to that, of course, which we've talked about.
Yeah.
One of them experienced today.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a trippy thing, man, when you're laying in bed and, you know, because if you're in a hospital bed for so long, they're concerned with pressure ulcers. So if you're laying for too long in one spot, the skin will break down and it'll create a pressure ulcer, which will then get infected, right? So what they have to do for that is you have to roll and change your sides every 2 hours throughout the night, everything. I could not move my legs to roll. Like I literally had to have nurses pick up my legs and roll me over, you know, for the first month. And, you know, like people wipe your butt, you're shitting your pants, you know, like I don't know if I should cuss on this or not, but
Cussing's great.
Okay.
Cuss more.
Yeah, right?
I love cussing.
Yeah, and then just it was very humbling, but it's been a very eye-opening experience for me. I'm still in the thick of everything. It's been 6 months, but you know,
Still pretty new. That's not too long when you're talking about a back injury like that. Yeah.
Right. And you know, miraculously, I am ahead of, I guess, doctors' projected schedule as far as recovery goes.
Amazing.
So where, you know, I can move my legs again. And you know, when you look at me, like, you know, you saw me, you're like, oh, you're walking, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, sure.
But what people don't know though is like what I told you earlier is that actually probably about 5% of my legs work, and that 4% is my hamstring or my quads. The rest doesn't work, but these bad boys right here are what's keeping me alive. So yeah, it's been quite the journey. But like I said, I'm actually grateful for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel blessed that I get to endure this.
And Tanner, that's why I wanted to interview you. That's why I'm here in San Diego again, is because in my own experience, the most painful and suffering moments of my life have also been the most transformative and spiritually enlightening experiences. And that's what I explicitly want the focus to be on, is the path forward and the hope and the beauty in this. Obviously there's suffering, you know, and we should talk about that, you know, let's not ignore that. But you mentioned the word mystery, and that word really stuck out to me. You said back injuries are a mystery, or were a mystery. I'd never thought about them. So you've kind of been plunged headfirst into this mystery, right? And spirituality and God's a big focus of my life right now, and topics of, even before all this conversation in Found Humanity, God is a mystery. So in being thrown into this mysterious time of your life, what has emerged, both the negative and the positive?
Okay. You'll have to pull me back, because if I start talking about the negative, I'll start with the negative.
Sure.
And then if I forget to come back to the positive, pull me back.
I will.
So what's emerged for me as far as the negative is, let's think about this for a second. Well, unfortunately, I feel like when you go through traumatic events in your life, that, you know, you're going through suffering, right? Because I'm not alone in this. There's many people out there that are going through their own suffering in many ways, right? Whether it be severe depression or anxiety that you can't leave the house, or you're in part of a school shooting. It doesn't matter. There's so many different things, right? This is just my trial. But when you go through that, you start to actually learn who is your true friends and who's there for you. You know, I think I told you that, you know, when I was in the hospital, right, like everybody wanted to be there to be like, oh my God, right? It's like this exciting thing that happened. Like, I feel so bad for you. But eventually that newness wears off of like, okay, and now I'm in the thick of the suffering that is a prolonged suffering. And to no fault, I have no judgment, but most people don't want anything to do with that. You know, like we're all so busy and caught up with our own lives, our own problems, that we don't want anything to do with you over there that's suffering and you're depressed. You know what I mean? And so what it's been for me is it's like I've been able to kind of actually weed out some people who I believe are like, you know, close friends, and people who unfortunately we were close friends at one point, but I don't see as a close friend so much anymore. But at the end of the day, even with that conclusion, I really don't have judgment towards anybody.
Beautiful.
Because I'm gonna hold a mirror up to my own face and realize that there's people out there that think the same thing about me, because I haven't been there for them the way that they needed. And does that mean that I don't love that person? Probably not. But does that mean that I was selfish in that moment? Probably. So I don't judge anybody. That's just one of the things that I've experienced that I would consider as a negative, is losing some people or seeing who's truly there for you. Let's see. The other negative is, of course, I mean, the obvious that I already talked about is I'm having to relearn how to manage life as far as provide myself with endorphins, provide myself stress relief, and do things that make me happy. All of that was taken away from me all at once. Everything that I did every single day that I love to do, I cannot do right now. You know, as far as fitness or motorcycle or doing things that, because for me, fitness, it's always been a huge part of my life, but it's been more so, I've always told people the physical byproduct is a byproduct. Why I do it is for my mental health, because it feels good. It's a stress relief. And luckily, I've been able to do what I can with my limitations. But at first, that was a huge negative of like just being severely depressed because I could not do anything. Like I said, I was locked to a hospital and a house for four months before I was able to re-enter the world again. You know what I mean? And then let's see, what other negative? I'm having a hard time actually think of any others because, like I told you, I guess I have this mindset that I view what happened to me primarily actually like kind of in a positive light, you know? So like, I guess you didn't have to remind me. Getting back to the positive, first off, I'll say, like I told you earlier, we can just kind of dive into that, which capitalizes on what I said earlier about chasing women and stuff, right? And this relates a little bit with God, but, you know, I feel like God, whatever that means for, you know, you or anybody, I think that there is a divine, a plan, a master plan. I feel like there's a path that we're all, like, things happen for a reason, right? And I think that, you know, there's this concept of free will that's in Christianity. Are you familiar with free will?
A little bit.
Okay, so free will means you have the choice, right? So you have the choice to believe, you have the choice not to believe. You have the choice to do this, you have the choice to do that. You have the choice to do what you think or know is right, or maybe God showed you is right, or you have the choice to say, no, I'm good, I'm going to do my own thing. And there's consequences. At least in the Christianity view, there's consequences for that. Like I told you earlier, I think that the way I kind of jokingly and lightheartedly interpret this about myself is that God, you know, did this to me because I've had many choices or many chances to pursue the higher purpose that I know that I've been drawn and called to, which is to help people, and to make the right decisions. But yet I kept just living my life in the fast lane, chasing girls, just surviving, whatever, just busy. It's not that I wasn't progressing. It's not that I wasn't working on myself, but I was wasting my time with a lot of things, and particularly with women. And God's like, all right, you're done. You know, like I'm gonna stop that for you right now, and we're gonna put you through this very drastic, life-changing accident that has completely eliminated my ability to have any sexual function at all, pretty much. So, you know, the chasing women thing's gone, and it's stopped me from working, so I'm not busy anymore. It's stopped me from everything. So it's given me the chance now to really dive into who am I?
Mm.
Where am I going? How do I do that? And also letting go. The biggest thing that I think that this happened to me for was to let go of everything that I ever thought that I was, or any form or identity that my ego has attached to, and to let go of that. Because honestly, no matter what you believe in, if you're on the spiritual path towards enlightenment, towards God, at least what I've learned is that the goal is to realize that you are nothing, but you are also everything. And we are all one, and like, you know, we as humans in this culture, that to succeed and make a name for ourselves, we grasp onto all these different identities. And I think when you're on a spiritual path, the goal is to let go of all of those identities.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think that this really forced me to do that. Because it's completely, you know, it's just straight up eliminated many things that I used to do. So I actually feel grateful, though. Like I told you, like I feel grateful that I'm able to dive into this journey and into myself and grow towards this path, because this is something that, like I said, this is a passion and a purpose and a calling that I've had for a long time. So this is just another chapter that's going to help me impact people, hopefully.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I want to point out, I hope it's okay to share this. I don't think you'd object to it, so I'll just say it. But ADHD, right? Let's say that.
Yeah.
Okay to talk about?
Yeah.
Okay. I think you've expressed that you dealt with that, you know, and you say it's you have heavy symptoms or whatever. It's just, whatever. I think I have it too. Rabbit trails, we were joking earlier, like the rabbit trail starts, the main train of thought goes or vanishes, and it's like, where the fuck, what were we talking about? You know, one indication of it. But one marker of ADHD, I think, is a lot of energy that you don't know what to do with. And so it comes out in all these different ways, and it can be hard to create discipline, structure, or when it's like the black or white thing, you have to either like cut everything out, do it 110%, or do it 0%. There's that middle ground stuff. No, thank you. So in an accident like this, I'm hearing a big theme of like, you had your energy channeled, whether it was towards women or towards other endeavors that you had in life.
Yeah, just living fast, chasing dopamine, just living,
Just living.
Not towards, even though, you shared with me earlier about how, on paper and what your purpose, you knew what your paper purpose was, like you knew what you wanted to do, but you had a season where you weren't actually doing that. You were in your bedroom and depressed
for months in bed,
doing what you were doing, right?
Yeah.
And so we all go through fluxes and stuff, but like I was just busy living without purpose. You know what I mean? I wasn't making time for the purpose. And I've always believed, and this isn't some grandiose idea, but I believe that I believe that my purpose is to help people, and I have a bigger purpose. So I believe God was like, it's time. Like, do it. Now it's time. And I'm going to obviously put you through this crazy battle of your life on the journey, but this is also giving you the opportunity to pursue it, because you're not working anymore. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just, my main priority right now is just rehab. I'm off work, and I have a lot of time on my hands. So what I want to hopefully utilize that time is just towards the path and purpose that I have neglected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I bless that. I come into alignment with what you're saying, and I want that for you, because I see you as someone who has boundless potential and energy and insight and conviction and passion, really. I see you as a very passionate person. And I think that anytime someone who has passion can apply it in a direction, it's a force to be reckoned with. And so I think I'm sure you've already had that in life, but I'm sure it's only going to increase with now these limitations that have been placed on your life. So what else?
Well, did I get off topic with our ADHD? I don't remember. I don't know if I answered how you.
Yeah,
wanted
let me
ADHD.
finish that question. You had a lot of things, a lot of different directions in your life.
Yeah.
What fell out of those directions? Like what collapsed in the midst of this change, and where do you see it realigning towards a more concerted direction?
Okay. Let's see. So, well, I guess I kind of did answer this, but so I feel like to answer this, I need to just like backtrack briefly, like
Sure.
what my path has been and what my goal has been. So, you know, I started college 2011 is when I graduated high school. 2015, I graduated with my bachelor's. It was my junior year in college that I got my job as a personal trainer. And then the year following graduation, so 2016 and 17, I met my best friend. His name is Kyle Hubner. Hi, Kyle. And we turned our passion into fitness and ministry and helping people and motivational speaking into a very impactful season of our life, in which he's still living with his 3 gyms. But we were able to turn that into a gym ministry at the time. But I always knew that even before that I was going to join the Navy. I felt called that this is my purpose, that I was supposed to be a Navy SEAL. And then my idea was that the Navy SEAL was the vehicle in which I'm going to attain the purpose. But my actual overarching purpose was, like I said, to be a coach, a motivational speaker, or a helper, just help people in some way. And that was going to be what I used my God-given abilities to do in the meantime as a career until that. Well, that didn't happen. I failed massively, right? Failure is a huge part. I know that we're not really focused on that topic right now, but you know, I failed. Biggest failure in my life. Something that I devoted years and years and years and obsession to, I failed. And so then I just got reclassified in the Navy as a corpsman, which at the time I had no idea what a corpsman even was. I am grateful that I was given that opportunity because it's actually a very interesting and engaging career. And I was able to get with the Marine Corps, and I was with the Scout Sniper Unit. So it was very kind of high speed, kind of like a SEAL stuff was. So it was still a great time. But regardless, still in the back of my head, right? Like I want to help people, right? So I get out. I have no idea what that looks like. So I was a park ranger, like I said. We've already talked about this. What this accident has done for me has given me the opportunity to pursue it, to be honest. Pursue that calling, that thing that people have affirmed for me forever, which is to, you know, be somebody that helps people, you know? So like I told you, I'm thinking about pursuing a PsyD, like a doctorate program in psychology, and do clinical counseling and just continue to grow. You know, that's all we can do. Like I was telling you earlier that it's great to have the end goal in mind of where you want to be or what you want to be, but it's the process that matters the most. And that's where all the life is. So I'm in no rush to get there. Because as soon as you get there, it's going to be emptiness and you're going to be like, that's it? Now what? Right? So then you're going to have to find something new. So just like, I'm just kind of taking this time now to, for the first time in my life, have the time to really look within and, like I said, shed old identities and try to really grow inwardly and spiritually towards this path of, honestly, I mean, enlightenment, and then also like helping people. Yeah. So like I told you, one of my favorite teachers is Ram Dass, and he's a spiritual teacher, and I could see myself helping people in that specific specialty. Maybe it's more than that. I don't know. But that is something that I find myself very interested in right now.
Yeah.
Meditation, mindfulness, and just growing spiritually.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
What? Let's go into that a little bit. What have you found? You mentioned you'd listened to a ton, like the Ram Dass podcast or something to that effect, like at least once, maybe multiple times.
Yeah.
What have those teachings helped you with?
So yeah, Ram Dass is probably my favorite spiritual teacher, and I listen to him almost daily. Like I told you, his I find his voice and his intellect just very soothing, comforting, and he's a very intelligent person. In his story, I actually relate to his story quite a bit. Because his story was that, you know, he was a very success-driven entrepreneur who lived very fast and was just chasing, like a lot of us are, right? Just like material success, worldly success. And then, you know, and he had a motorcycle. I like motorcycles, right? Because there's this big thing about, oh, you're into spirituality and you're seeking enlightenment, but yet you ride motorcycles. It's like, I think they can coexist. I really do. Some people don't think that, but I mean, it is what it is on that.
They're fucking idiots, is what it is.
No, they've never ridden a motorcycle. Is what
That's
it is.
what it is. You're
So,
right.
because there's nothing that gives me more joy than riding the motorcycle. I
Come
think
on.
that if you're gonna get close to God, living on Earth, like ride a motorcycle. So, just be careful, you know. But
Yes, be careful.
So Ram Dass used to like ride motorcycles, right?
Yeah.
So he talks about how he was chasing the high. He was chasing that adrenaline high, and there's not many other things in this world that, I mean, you know, you can go skydiving. There's different things you can do to achieve this adrenaline, this high, right? But he's chasing this high. And he was a very success-driven entrepreneur until drugs.
Whoa.
I'll just like throw that out there. I mean, and it's not for everybody, and I know you don't need drugs to achieve spiritual enlightenment or to grow. But for him, this was the turnkey moment in his life. It was during the time of the 60s and LSD movement. And
Yeah.
he did a lot of exploration with LSD, and he basically went from high-driven entrepreneur to experimenting a ton with LSD to now he's a professor at, I think, Harvard or Stanford or both, and then traveling to India and all these places and just growing and getting a mentor and getting a guru. And then becoming one of the most renowned spiritual teachers of our time, to be honest. You know, he passed away a couple years ago from a stroke, but I mean, he's got documentaries out there. He's got YouTube videos out there. He's got Spotify. I mean, he's everywhere. And he's his words are very profound. And what I love about him and what I identify with the most is, you know, because I told you I grew up as a Christian, a fundamentalist Baptist Christian. And then I stepped away from Christianity when I went to college, like a lot of people do, right? Like you kind of do some exploring, figure out what your life is, right? Well, I stepped away my freshman year, sophomore year, then I slowly came back to it. And then I identified as a Christian pretty much the rest of my adult life until I got out of the military and was accepted into the Navy chaplain program. So I was on track, which actually I'm still a part of the program, which is funny enough, which I'm not going to be rejoining anytime soon. But basically I was a part of this program to where you had to go and get a master's degree in divinity to then become a Navy chaplain, which is the same degree that preachers get for churches. And then rejoin the Navy as a Navy chaplain to help people be a spiritual leader, be a spiritual teacher. Well, while I was in school, it was a fundamentalist Baptist school, which I did not know that when I went. It was false advertised. But I basically, you know, like I told you, I fully gave myself to God, right? I surrendered. You know, I felt like maybe I was chasing what I wanted my entire life. All through my 20s, I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. This is my way, God. But, you know, I grew up and my mom, the only thing she told me is you're going to be a pastor. That's it. There was nothing else on the plate. And so I ran away from that. Right. And I thought I ran away from that for all my 20s and it didn't work out. Right. Like the SEAL thing did not work out. And that's what I wanted more than anything. So I was like, all right, God, I'm surrendering. Here I am. And so I went to school. But it's when I was at school, graduate school for divinity, that at least this particular school with this particular ideology, I just could not get myself to fully identify with or fully believe in. And so I stepped away and I no longer identify as a Christian. And getting back to it, I'm glad I'm able to.
You're killing
what
it.
I like about Ram Dass and why I identify with him so much, not to mention do I feel like I identify with his story of his human development, I identify with his views on spirituality and religion. And he believes that, and I believe, Christianity is an amazing method to grow close to God and become enlightened. but so is Buddhism, and so is Hinduism, and so is every other religion. I feel like that there's good things in all of them, and I don't see
Yes.
anything wrong with any of them. Well, that's not true. I think there is some
Sure.
extreme,
Sure.
but that's how Ram Dass, he worships Jesus, he worships Buddha, he worships everybody, So, and I really like that. At least in this season of my life right now, I really like that idea of understanding that. Because, like we said, this is all a mystery. Nobody
Yes.
knows for
No
sure.
one knows.
Nobody knows. And, that's the whole concept of faith, is believing without seeing. And I think it's amazing if somebody's able to find their identity and find their community and be convicted that the Christianity is the way. Great. That's amazing. And grow towards God, right? That is the goal for everybody.
Yes.
But I don't think it's the only way. So that's one of the main things I really identify with and love about Ram Dass. The second one, or I guess the thing that spoke to me the most recently in listening to him,
Mm-hmm.
is just the idea that I touched on earlier of, letting go of identity, really,
Yes.
which is so countercultural to how we live right now, right? Like, we all are becoming somebody.
Whoa.
You know what I mean? Like, we all are attaining and striving to be somebody, to have this security in this identity and this role. This is who I am. And what Ram Dass says, because he's more enlightened, he's done the work and he's done this process, you need to let go of that. That is what's holding you back from actually attaining, reaching God and attaining enlightenment. So I really am intrigued with that right now, because I feel like I am in the perfect season of shedding and letting go of everything that I've ever thought that I was,
Wow.
and being open to what I become,
Whoa.
with having no expectation.
That sure sounds like a mystery.
Yeah, and that is a mystery. But life is a mystery,
Yes.
and that's what keeps life amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's fun. Like, life is fun, and like, I could sit here with what happened to me, and I could have let it. People tell me all the time, they're like so impressed or can't believe the mindset I have about it. But it's like, to me, I can't even fathom I can't fathom giving up. I can't fathom. Now, don't get me wrong. I've had suicidal thoughts. I've had deep depression from this. But I can't fathom just like rolling over and be like, all right, I'm 31 years old. I was 30 when this happened. That's it. And just letting my life and abilities rot away because now I'm paralyzed. Because there are people out there that I suppose do that, right? But luckily, it's just the discipline that, I would say the main thing that I love and has always been a huge part of my life is, not that I don't struggle, but discipline. There is discipline equals freedom.
Whoa.
Jocko Willink, that's a quote from Jocko Willink. He's got a very great book called that. But discipline equals freedom. And, we were talking about how all the growth is in adversity, right? Well, discipline forges and creates adversity to yourself. And then through that adversity, you feel good because you did the thing that you didn't want to do, and now you feel good. So in the moment, that's a little bit of adversity because you don't feel great, like whether that be anything, right? Waking up early or working out or writing the book that you need to write, doing these things that you don't want to do. That's a little bit of adversity, but it's the discipline. And then, because people think that you live this life of freedom and happiness when you have no discipline, when you just do whatever the heck you want.
Yeah.
But really, there's no fulfillment there, right? And you actually end up creating way more pain. So there's the pain of discipline and the pain of regret, right? Like, we've all heard that before. But
it's important, though.
It
We
is.
can't hear it enough, I think.
Yeah. So I rambled a little bit there, but
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I feel like, wow. Well, it's a mysterious season of life that you're in, coming back to the theme of mystery,
yeah,
and enlightenment and spirituality, and moving into the more tangible stuff.
okay.
What, if you could choose a direction, if you could say, like, maybe 30 days from now I'll be here and I'll be doing this type of work, You mentioned life coaching. Maybe that's a jumping off point, but what would that be?
Okay, good question. So 30 days from now, let's play with that. Let's play with 30 days from now. Let's play with a month from now. Let's play with 6 months from now. So I just moved, right? So I've been undergoing a lot of transition, not only the accident, but life hands you lemons, make lemonade, right? So the life handed me some lemons, and I've been having to make a lot of moves to recreate a new reality based off of the lemons that I was served, right? So I'm just finally getting to a place again where I can feel, I guess, settled again, right? Because I just moved like 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
So as far as 30 days goes from now, I think this is great accountability and great motivation to push me towards that, because I've kind of just been living, surviving, doing rehab, right?
Sure.
But I do want to get back onto that, purpose and what I want to be doing. And one of the ideas that I had that I would like to get to is making like daily YouTube videos.
Yes.
In the realm of, like I said, I want to be a life coach, which is such an umbrella term. Obviously, I do think that there's different niches and different specialties that you can specialize in. I do think that I have things that I can offer that can help everybody, to be honest, just based off of the life experience that I've had. But I don't know what that path is going to look like. So for me, what I wanted to do is to start making daily YouTube videos, just like some of the mentors that I've taken their coaching courses did. And you learn who you are and what this looks like through that process. It might take you 6 months before you even get a single view, or you might know what the hell you're doing. But then 6 months from now, you would have never been there if you didn't start 6 months ago. So for me, I think you bringing that up, I think that would be a great goal, is to get my office set up and to start doing what I said I was going to do a couple months ago before all the change, and to start doing that again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask a follow-up on that?
Yeah.
And I'll root it in something you shared, which is that you've had a lot of success in your discipline when it comes to physical discipline, whether it's exercise or getting up at 4 a.m. to go on hikes with your dogs before work in the day. Like, that's incredible. Truly, not most people don't do that. So it says something about you that you're capable of implementing discipline in that level. What kind of different discipline might it take for you to, and what challenges would you expect to face in sharing yourself in a YouTube video daily? What fears might arise or barriers that might prevent you from doing that you need to overcome to be disciplined in that?
So I don't know if it's a fear or not, but I suppose it kind of is. I think it's more of a fear of maybe judgment. But part of me, we all care about what people think about us, and to an extent. But then part of me likes to believe that, like, I don't really care what people think of me. But I think it's just in our nature that we care because we're social people, right? Like, we want to connect with people. And so if you're doing something that doesn't connect with those people, like, you feel like you want to do something to connect with them. So I guess one of the fears or limiting beliefs or setbacks would be that the fact, like I said, that I have no idea what I'm doing. Or when I'm out there talking about whatever I decide to talk about, like, who cares? Nobody's going to listen. Or what do I have to share? But these are all limiting beliefs, right? Because like I told you, that we all have experiences in life and we all have stories. So technically, if you really wanted to be technical, I don't think every single person is called to go be a coach, right? But we all have something to offer the world. And that's why I think what you're doing with your work is amazing, in that you're interviewing humanity, you're interviewing just people, right? Because we all have things to offer. So I think just the things holding me back is just like all the logistical things of, like, I don't know what I'm doing, like as far as camera setup and like making it quality product, or like having things that people are going to relate to, just stuff like that. But at the same time, that's actually not too much of a fear, because I expect the struggle. I expect the fact that I don't expect to have it all figured out right away. Like, I'm expecting it to be months or a year before I maybe figure it out. But it's the act of consistently showing up every day, and that's where the discipline is going to translate. Is the discipline that I used to have to work out or run or make myself go do X, Y, or Z, to go put that forth now into writing or studying or making a video, right? So it's not quite as, at least at face value, it's not quite as rewarding or easy for me to do, because for me, I had instant feedback from fitness of endorphin rush, right? You do the thing that you don't want to do, but you feel great. I think you can still get that from doing other things that aren't fitness related, but it's a different type of challenge, right?
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
I think you know that. I think that you editing videos, and I'm sure you enjoy that.
Oh yeah.
Of course, that's
Love
why
hate,
that's why
but
you
yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
But there's certain things that we know that are required of our paths
Yeah.
that you just don't want to do, but you have to.
Yes.
You know, and there's quite a few things for me that I don't typically or in the past have a history of doing every day that I want to do every day. So that'll be a little bit of a challenge. So.
I see you as someone who, if you set your mind to doing the boring thing or the thing that's monotonous, but you have to do to get there, you could do that.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe I'm speaking to myself here. Maybe I'm projecting, but I'll speak to myself in this. For me, it feels very vulnerable
Yeah.
to do conversations like this, which I'm sure you'll do in the future, by the way, if you haven't already. But to put yourself out into the world and say, like, this is me, you know, like I don't edit these,
Right.
you know,
Right.
it's like,
Yeah.
this is it.
Yeah.
And that goes out there into the ether, and people, you know, can do what they want with it. They
Right.
can make their impressions. They can whatever they want. And it is vulnerable. It is vulnerable.
But I think that the success and the power, trying to think of another word for it, but I think that, yeah, the power in the content lies in the vulnerability, right? I think people, because it's relatable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Instead of just trying to act like you're perfect or not share your struggles, like that is definitely not what I'm going to do. Like it's just going to be being my real self and sharing my real story. You know what I mean? And trying to continue to grow and evolve, and then teach people and help people with what's worked for me or what I know works for others. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think that vulnerability piece is huge, but it's also lacking. It's also lacking out there. You know what I mean? I think that a lot of people, this goes back to, you know, stripping form, ego, identity. It's like people want to project, you know, social media. It's a highlight reel for the most part. You know, it's like the perfect everything. Everything's perfect. You don't share the negative stuff. And I get that, you know, it's almost pointless in a way sometimes to share some of these negative things because you don't want to manifest and focus on that negative energy. But
right,
just
if your whole feed is just your fucking deepest, darkest shit.
Right, then that's depressing.
Yeah, ruined your life. It's like, who's going to follow that, or why? Why would anyone want to follow that?
But when you share your struggles and you know, let somebody else know that, like, you know, I'm human and I'm going through, you might look up to me, and this isn't me, nobody looks up to me in that form at this moment, but like, you know, there's people who do this online, right, that people look up to because they have a platform, they have a presence, and people look up to them. But we have to remember that they're human just like us. You know what I mean? And they have struggles just like us. So I really relate to the influencers that are very real, that share real everything. Everything is real. There's no fluffing, there's no faking, there's no bullshit. You know what I mean? And I really relate to that. I respect that. And I think that there's a lot of people in our culture right now that are craving that, you know, that real authenticity, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
can I ask a follow-up about that? When you think about, and I want you, if I could, I want to know, who are the people that you've looked up to, influencer-wise, or perhaps mentor? You mentioned Ram Dass. Are there other people as well, content-wise, right? Ram Dass wasn't a content creator or a YouTuber or whatever. Are there people whose approach to that you really respect, that you could see yourself modeling after, and how would that look like for you to model that?
Yeah. So I would say that most of the people that I follow or that I look up to the most, as far as like if I were to say these are my most influential mentors, all throughout college, Eric Thomas saved my life. He's a motivational speaker. Tony Robbins, everybody knows Tony Robbins. And then once I shifted towards military focus, a guy named Mark Devine, who he has an unbeatable mind, and what is the name? I can't think of the name of his other stuff right now, but basically they're actually not huge like influencers when we think of influencers like Instagram wise, right? But they're the people I look up to the most because they do all have like podcasts and like I listen to their content. I don't know, I have a lot of respect for them. But the people that I look up to as far as like, if we're talking 2024 relatability, like we use social media, right? A lot of people use social media. I really resonate with Aaron Dowdery. Do you know who that is by chance? Okay, so he's the one, I took his coaching course recently, but he's just very, he's the one who gave me the idea of making YouTube videos every single day, right? And the fact that he told me, he shares with everybody, right? Like that he maybe had 0 to 10 views for 6 months, right? Like, but it was just doing it every single day. But he is very real and authentic, and he posts daily, right? So I think that I have such a push-pull relationship with social media, binary, right? Like extreme, all or none. And I'm going through a season right now where I'm actually trying to step away from it because I'm not in the position that some of these influencers that I follow are in, where they've already went through the work, they've already developed their path, they're there, and now they're sharing. And that doesn't mean that they don't have continued work to do. And I do think probably some people, if not myself, maybe utilize a social media manager to help with that for people like myself who get so pulled into it. But where I was getting at with that is that, he posts pretty much every day, and so that engagement with your community, I think, is big. You know what I mean? But Aaron Dowdery, and then I follow a couple. I used to follow a lot of like ex-special forces military motivational speakers, influencers, which I still do follow a couple, but I kind of actually had to step away and kind of disengage with a few of those just because it was causing me a little bit of internal conflict because of the fact that is the path that I thought that I was going to go for so long. And it never really happened. That doesn't mean that I can't still pursue my path that I want to pursue, but that exact route by being a special forces operator and then going on and influencing like they do now, that was at times triggering for me to constantly be consuming that content. So, but I'll be honest, man, like when you ask me, other than people like Ram Dass and like these people that actually don't have social media presence, most of the people that I draw influence and mentorship from are actually not influencers. You know what I mean? Like they're just teachers, they have books, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I think that it would be a good idea to, if social media, for example, is a medium that I want to use to do business or to reach people, whether that be YouTube or Instagram or whatever, I think it's a great idea, obviously, to find people that you relate to and model and learn from them. I guess I'm just not there right now. I'm kind of in the season of growing and working and developing.
Beautiful.
You know what I mean?
Beautiful. And it's people who are willing to, in my opinion, sit in that season and not rush out of that season that have the most to offer when they emerge out of it and say, okay, now I'm actually going to take what I've learned, not just from the season, but my whole life.
Yeah.
And turn that into something I can offer. Yeah,
you just made me think of actually another influencer, I guess. He's probably the one that I actually relate to the most right now, mentor. His name is Eli Wiebe, I think is how you pronounce his last name, Eli Wiebe. But he's got a great book called Mask, M-A-S-K, and it's basically his story of chasing success. And his route to get there was through Hollywood and clubbing and becoming like a manager of a club and just like mingling with very successful Hollywood people and just kind of chasing that party life and just fast life and all that. But it's his story of going to that and then the emptiness and then rebuilding himself. And now he's like an ultra runner and ultra motivational. Like I said, he's got a book and he stands for a lot of things that I resonate with. But he has a chapter in his book that actually motivated me to most recently delete my Instagram. It only lasted a month for me, but I'm going to continue that. But he disappeared from social media for a while because he realized, and what I've realized, it's a hard addiction to break, is that it's truly, unless you're already at the point where you have a business and you're utilizing Instagram as a business or helping people already, it's just a waste of time. You're either comparing yourself or you're showing off or you're wasting time just time sucking, scrolling. So what he realized that, and many people realize that, but like I really resonated with him because he was somebody who just posted and was addicted to his phone. And I would say that I'm addicted to my phone. And he deleted it. And I don't remember exactly how long, but I want to say it was probably like a whole year at least. And then he reemerged. But guess what? When he reemerged, he had a New York Times bestselling book. He was now like doing this thing and helping people. And now he's utilizing it to connect with people because he's already done that work. But I personally feel like just because I'm very binary, just like he is, he says he's the same way. Actually, that's the reason I explain myself as binary, because he's X's and O's, ones and zeros. He's either all in or all out. So he was either super addicted to his phone, so he had to eliminate that to create time and space for the things that actually matter. And then he was able to re-enter that world as a new person.
Wow.
Yeah. So, Eli Wiebe.
Wow. So here's a cheesy question, but perhaps not cheesy to the audience. You're an inspiration to a lot of people for having the experiences you've had and for handling them the way that you have and finding the light in dark times. But also accepting the darkness as well. It's not all light. From what the season has taught you and from what the experiences have taught you, what would you want to share with whoever ends up listening or watching?
Well, this is something, I guess the first thing that came to my mind is, medicine that I have to take daily for myself, but to never give up, right? To, no matter what, never give up. Knowing that every single emotion that you feel, every single season that you go through is temporary. So no matter how bad it is right now, it will end and it will get better. So, because we've talked about, I've went through seasons of dark depression and had suicidal thoughts in the past and stuff like that. And, you shared with me about your struggle in your season.
Yeah.
But, what kind of is, I'm able to ground myself out of that thinking, knowing that that's just how I feel right now. I know that, and we're talking the long game, right? So we got to think way bigger picture, which is hard to do, because we're stuck in the current moment. But it might take a year, it might take 5 years. But guess what? I'm 31 right now. Let's say it takes 5 years of the worst misery of my life. And now 36, I finally have a breakthrough, and I'm a whole new person that I can't even project right now, because who knows where life's going to be 6 years from now. If you end it now, you don't get the chance to experience that. And 36 is still young. You still have 60 years of your life left. So never giving up is probably the resonating first thought as far as what I've learned. Because it does get better, and I'm still in the thick of things, but it has gotten tremendously better in the last couple of weeks even. And then not to mention the growth from when it happened to now. And it's only been 6 months.
Is that the resounding thought when you do enter those really dark times? Like, there's a bigger picture here, and I have to believe, and I have to hope, and I have to...
The resounding thought no. I would say what stops me in those dark moments and those dark thoughts, especially like suicidal type thoughts, is understanding. Luckily, I've been able to internalize this fact of how selfish suicide is. Um, because, and trust me, like I said, I've been to the dark spots where you just want the misery to end, like, and that would be the easy way out. And so just end it now, right? But the thing is now you're creating misery and stealing from so many other people. It's like a ripple effect. It's not just you. Like, you're eliminating yourself from the world, but now you just cause havoc and stole from so many people that you might have touched. And not to mention just the people that are in your immediate life right now. And they have to live with that for the rest of their life now. And so that has been the biggest thing, aside from knowing that it will end and it will get better. It's been the fact of understanding how selfish it is.
Wow.
But I also understand how horrible it feels,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And I'm not saying that I've been to the deepest and darkest of spots. Like, maybe there's been people that have been even darker and deeper than I have. Like, there's no need to compare here.
Right.
But
Right.
I've definitely, even in this season alone, right, like, have had thoughts of taking my gun and shooting myself. And that's like a daily thing, but it's never something that luckily has been super serious, because I feel like I've had the wherewithal, like I said, to understand that is just not an option.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I'm trying to think of, you asked me.
There's a permanence in the impact that can have too, I think. I when I was suicidal, I'll open up a little here. I knew that it was selfish. I knew full well it would cause suffering first and foremost to my family, but then to my friends beyond that. And it was through mental trickery that I thought, you know what, they'll get over it. You know, I accepted the selfishness. And then it was just about the metaphysics for me of like wondering what's beyond. And that's what stopped me from doing it ultimately. But that is a huge factor that I think, thank God that exists, that people can recognize, oh, this actually will have an impact beyond me.
Yeah, and it's interesting, you know, because like I told you, the person who I look up to the most right now is, and I follow the most, like I said, spiritual teacher Ram Dass, and his view on this is he doesn't think it's selfish at all to end your life.
Interesting.
You know, so he thinks that if you decide that's what you want to do, it's up to you, right? And I don't align with that right at this moment. Like I said, I align more with understanding that it's selfish and that like there's more and better to come. The best is yet to come, right? Like this is a temporary thing. But I thought of something when you were just speaking there about how you know, the metaphysics side of things, of how, like, you know, it might be better just to go experience death, right? And that's a very mystery and deep topic when it comes to metaphysics and religion, and it's something that I've tried to grow towards, even in this last year of my life. I'll just be open and honest. I don't really care. Is like I used it's called 5-MeO-DMT, which is like bufo-DMT, which is like the death molecule or whatever. And I guess it's supposed to be what it's like to die. Like, people who do that, like Tony Robbins has done it, right? You can look it up on YouTube. Like, the reason that Tony Robbins did it, for example, was to understand, because he felt like the one thing that he couldn't do is help people that were dying.
Wow.
So he wanted to be able to relate and feel, what does this feel like to die? So that's kind of what this molecule has been known as, right? So I did that. And it was interesting for me. And then I also, before I forget, I also have done some work with like ayahuasca. And like using these tools, these ritualistic tools, I think that it helps you get to a place that I do think that you can get to without any drugs, through meditation and mindfulness, but they kind of help you get to these higher planes of consciousness.
Right.
That, at least what these teachers, of what I've learned, is like that is where you go when you die. You become one with everything, and you're in these higher planes of consciousness, right?
Right.
So kind of when you use this thing, and I'm not encouraging anybody out there to use any type of substance, but that's kind of the use for this, not recreationally for fun, but it's as a tool to try to see what this place is and like. And when I did 5-MeO Bufo DMT, I would say that I didn't really get to experience the best experience that I could have to gain the insight that I probably could have, because the entire time was a 10-15 minute panic attack. So because it was just very, it's known to be very intense, and it kind of just like shoots you through like a rocket ship out into the ether, and it only lasts like 10 minutes. But like for me, just because of how I grew up and some previous experiences that I've had with psychedelics and stuff, it was just, I freaked out, right? So I don't have a lot to say when it comes to commenting on that,
Right.
space.
Right.
But I will say the next time I did something, which was the ayahuasca, that was the most blissful experience of my life. That was the most amazing experience of my life. And I feel like I did get a taste of just kind of what it feels like to not be identified to our human existence, but just to be, one with consciousness. And it was very blissful, which it may or may not always be that way. But, when you mention that comment of ending your life to experience death, thinking that that'll be better, that's just a topic that I hear a lot. I think spiritual teachers talk about that a lot, especially Ram Dass. And the big thing that is to learn from there, that what I can gather, is that there's nothing to fear, because and this is getting kind of like off topic and deep, but like I was just listening to a podcast of his recently saying how you were talking about how you used to believe in reincarnation.
Yep.
And like I said, I don't really identify with one specific thing right now, but this idea, like Ram Dass, for example, he believes that, or he shared a story about how, like, what was it? Like like you were a fish that turned into whatever, and then the leaf that turned into whatever, and then now you're the human. But basically, you've always progressed in your evolution, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
So why would you think that you're not going to continue to progress? So like we're in a human existence right now. So why would you think that it's going to be bad after that? It's only going to be better, whatever that may be. And we don't know, because we can't die and come back and talk about it.
Yeah.
But I think that makes sense to me.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Can I speak to that a little bit?
Yeah.
From my own learning and experience as well.
Yeah.
As you're a fucking biblical scholar, so you'll know exactly what I'm talking about here. But Jesus talked about the kingdom of heaven. That was the main focus of his teaching. And to be fair, I need to reread the New Testament because I haven't touched that shit in a while. But he talked about like the kingdom of heaven. You can experience it here on earth, and you can also experience hell as well, right? Like these are like, yes, there's potentially an afterlife, potentially heaven and hell, right? I don't know. I don't, in the sense of like scientific, no, no one does, but it's like suffering's real. We know that. Bliss is real. We know that. We've experienced it. And I think all the religious traditions, like they want to like move us in the direction of joy and bliss and like goodness, and ascension. And I forgot where I was going with this, but
I can relate.
Yeah, fuck. Heaven. This will be my first podcast I edit. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Let's see. You were talking about kingdom on earth.
Kingdom on earth.
How religion, or Christianity, how God says that.
I guess I don't remember the point, and I don't know if it'll come back, but
That's okay.
yeah.
I'm already impressed, man, with your ability to, you're gifted in the sense of communicating with people and then like bringing up these engaging topics to pull things out of people. And like,
Thanks, dude.
the fact that, I mean, this is the first time that I've done something like this. So I remember when we first sat down, you talked about how it's going to be like, you set a timer for like an hour and 20 minutes or something. And I was just like, that's impressive to me. Like, just because I've never just like talked deeply with somebody about something for that long and being able to stay engaged, stay on top of things. So you've done very well. So it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to
My ego loves
lose
this.
lose track of mind
Thank
just for
you,
a
man.
moment.
You
what
know,
I mean?
I struggle with that. You probably sensed it, and I was in rejection of the resistance that I felt towards my forgetfulness. But yeah, that's part of it, huh?
Yeah.
That's part of it.
Yeah.
It's okay to not have a complete thought,
Yeah.
especially for us ADHD folks.
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay.
But heaven and hell, the thought that I can wrap up about that is, I think we get a taste of heaven and hell. I know that.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, it's crazy. So, and it's interesting. When I was at school, I only went to biblical divinity school for like a semester. So I was only in a couple classes, but it's interesting, even within Christianity, how the different, because there's like Lutheran, Presbyterian, Baptist, evangelical, like there's all these different branches of it, right? And they all have actually different, really very vastly different belief systems within the same concept, right?
Yep.
So it was one thing that I found very interesting to learn and understand is that like some people, like I said, remember how I said dispensationalism means that you interpret every single word of the Bible as true and literal.
Yes.
Meaning every single word of that book is literal and true and exactly as it said, that's what it means, right? So eye for eye, you took the eye, right? There is no metaphor like that. I mean, maybe some if it's common sense, but pretty much all physical. So it was crazy to see the differences in beliefs between like Christianities, different types, about like believing of like how is heaven actually on earth right now? Mm-hmm. Or is heaven something that Christians are going to go to? Mm-hmm. Right? Is hell on earth right now? Or is hell something that we go to in the afterlife, right? It's very interesting if you do like biblical study of like the differences in beliefs based off of how you interpret the Bible, really.
Yes.
But, aside from scholarly, I mean, I do think that we do experience heaven and hell on earth. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the hell is the suffering.
Yeah.
Which is needed, though.
It's needed.
Right? And then the heaven is just all the bliss we do get to experience.
Yeah.
All the positive in life. There's so many blessings in this life. You know what I mean? I mean, every day above ground that we're alive is an opportunity to be a blessing. I feel like having kids is a blessing. Being with a partner is a blessing. There's just so many blessings. And I think that would be, in my mind, considered the heaven on earth, right?
Yeah.
But the hell, man, that is equally as important. And I would have never signed up for the hell that I'm in right now. But I gravitate towards and opt to choose towards the hell. Because I know, like we said, all the growth is in the hell. Yeah. All the growth is in the suffering.
It is.
You know what I mean? Even if it's the worst thing in your life and mentally you're unstable, like there's so many different things that hell can mean for you in misery, but it's going to make you better.
Yep.
It's going to make you grow and you're going to be a better person for it.
Yes.
And possibly help so many other people that are going through it when you meet them down the line.
Yes.
Yeah. But I know that you and I were talking about, obviously, you met me here today at my house, and we came here and we grabbed lunch with preparations to do this podcast after, and we hit some roadblocks or some weird maybe spiritual meaning type things. I don't know, but it was interesting. But
definitely,
I'd be open to sharing that with the people. You know what I mean?
Share it all. Share it all. All that
but-
had significance
right.
in your mind. I'm
Okay,
curious to
so-
see what you share
Okay.
will align with what I
Yeah,
experienced too. Yeah.
Yeah, so first off, right? So I'm a recovering paraplegic, okay? So at one point I was paralyzed waist down, and I have gained some movement back, right? Like still very limited. But one of the most impactful and influential things of my injury is that I have no control over my bowel and my bladder, right? So to let myself release the trash, the number 2, the poop, right? Like I gotta stick a finger up in there and dig it out, like, and that takes time and it's not fun and it's hard, right? And to go to the bathroom every day, number 1, to pee, I have to stick a catheter and I have to cath myself every couple hours. There was a big struggle with that when I first got injured, but luckily the last few months, it's kind of just become what I do right now, right? And I haven't had any issues with it lately until today, right? Which is just interesting before our podcast.
Yep. Literally right before.
Yeah. So, we show up and we get out of the car. We're walking up to this barbecue place.
Oh yeah, that's.
And Chris is, walking like a broken old man, and I'm like, dude, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? And because I couldn't see because he had his bag, but he was holding his water bottle in between his legs, and that's why he was walking like that. But I thought something serious was wrong with him, or he was making fun of me because I'm walking like a crippled, right? So during that time, we both laughed hysterically, and I peed my pants for the first time in 7 months. I haven't been able to use my penis to pee for 7 months or 6 months, whatever. So that was very interesting. I was actually happy about it, right? I wasn't mad.
I didn't know
I was like,
that.
hey, baby, maybe things are turning back on now. And this is this divine thing. You've healed me, Chris. Thank you. So that was number 1, right? So we sit down, we have our great, amazing lunch. And then we finish our lunch. Actually, there is something else that happened, but I'll follow up with that. I go in to use the restroom before we start shooting this podcast, and I pull my little catheter out of my fanny pack, which is right over there. I'm not wearing it right now, but to cath myself, which I don't have any issues with. And surprisingly, I'm going to insert it, and I can't. It's blocked, and I can't. I'm like, what the heck? And I push harder, and I can't. And I pull it out, and it's completely full of blood. And then I pull it all the way out, and blood just starts pouring. And I know this is graphic. I'm sorry. But it's just something that has never happened. So it gave me a little anxiety, right? Of do I need to leave? Do I need to go to the hospital? Is this okay? Is this normal? All of a sudden it went from me feeling excited and happy and present, ready to do this podcast, to anxious about what just happened. Because this has never happened to me before. And then another thing that happened that we were all just putting these pieces together of the puzzle is as we first sat down, there's this giant beetle of a something flying around in our ears, and
It almost landed on my head.
Yeah.
It was right here.
And it was this thing that I think both of us took as this is this a demonic sign,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because it was I'm thinking of Beelzebub, the fly, but it was just weird. Something that I haven't ever had. I've never even seen this beetle before, right? So all those things. And then I get back from using the bathroom, and Chris is over here setting up the podcast area. I was like, oh, that's cool, right? This is a cool area, whatever. And he's like, yeah, well, at first I didn't really because the goat.
The ram, yeah.
The goat.
Yeah.
And then he starts explaining to me how it's a symbolism for demonic stuff. And I'm just like, dude, is there something right now that doesn't want this to happen? Right? Because these things that have never happened before are happening. And we're going to talk about religion. We're going to talk about spirituality. We're trying to talk and manifest good for the world ultimately, right? Healing and vulnerability. So we both kind of had this wondering, is there something greater going on right now? A resistance.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I definitely felt some anxiety from that starting this. But luckily, that's went away, and we've been able to successfully talk.
Yes.
But
Beautiful
what
conversation.
a start. You know, a couple
What a
different
start,
funny
bro.
things.
And yes.
Yeah,
when
tell me
that-
about your interpretation of the
Yeah,
event.
so first thing, I thought it was absolutely hilarious, and I wasn't sure how you felt about it, like when we were walking in and I was, the water
Yeah.
and the peeing and everything. I was like, this is hilarious, but like, is he embarrassed? Is he not? And you weren't. So I'm like, thank God. That's
Oh, no,
awesome.
Yeah.
Hell
Luckily,
yeah.
I'm wearing black pants, so you can't even see it. So I was like,
Yeah.
I don't care.
Totally.
I'm sure if they were blue jeans, it might have been a little different.
Right,
Like, a
right.
big wet spot.
On a
but-
busy day, but there's like no one here too.
Right.
so.
Yeah. No, I didn't care.
But then when the fucking beetle came by, dude, that was immediately
Yeah.
before I even looked at you or anything had happened. He said, "Oh, there's a beetle by your head," and it didn't surprise me because that had happened like 3 days ago. I was in my van and there was literally a beetle that almost flew into the van. That's never happened before.
Yeah.
Same type of beetle, the green kind. And it was when I was watching an Instagram reel about the different names of God from different cultures.
Wow.
And they're all about Amen. From Egypt. I knew about the one from Egypt was called Amen Ra. But apparently that's the name of God in multiple different parts of the globe in prehistory. And then all of a sudden this little beetle almost flies into my car.
Wow.
And so that's the path I've been on lately. I'm a Christian now, and I believe in like Christ was God, and like so it's a more narrow view of God, I would say, in terms of like material aspects of God. But I've been trying to reconcile it with the esoteric knowledge that I've been learning as well, of like secret knowledge or whatever. And in the esoteric traditions like Freemasonry or whatever, they like worship the many different types of religious texts, and they use them in their meetings and stuff and use them for ritual. And they believe in like an amalgamation of different gods. And as a Christian, Christians view that as satanic, right? And a lot of the rituals they practice are satanic, I would say. But basically, the beetle, Beelzebub, right?
Yeah.
Ties back to the last podcast that I'll publish as well with Thomas. Literally, bro, the source of secret knowledge is Satan. This is from a Gnostic viewpoint. They corroborate this, and a Christian viewpoint of creation. Satan was the originator of secret knowledge, esoteric, occult knowledge.
Yeah.
It's Satan.
Yeah.
And he'll do everything in his power to stop our liberation and our coming back to love and to the one, which is God, and to truth.
Yeah.
And we're here having a conversation about that. And so evil will do everything in its power, whether it's putting a fucking beetle right on my head or that bloody fucking whatever.
Yeah, that incident that had never happened before.
Yes.
And
that was all, I believe.
Because I had thoughts in my head like, do I leave right now and not do this, right? I think it was resistance. And like you talked about earlier, spiritual resistance, spiritual warfare, stuff like that, right?
Yep.
When you're trying to do good, there's always an opposing force that's trying to do evil twice as hard.
Totally.
Towards you.
Totally.
And I do think, I know this is all silly possibly to some of you that are listening, but like, I just think that what we encountered, these little things, like, I do believe they were like little things that could have derailed us from doing this.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
And
I
it's
even
just
asked you.
interesting.
I said, dude, I even told you, like, before we even met up today, I was like, we could do a podcast, we could not, we don't have to.
Yeah.
And then even after all that shit happened, it felt like a weird omen or something, but I was like, I want to put this in Tanner's court. Like, what do you want, dude? Like, I have no attachment to doing a podcast. And you're like, no, let's do it. So I'm like, and then after you said that, I'm like, okay, here's how I interpret the meaning of this. And that's when you're like, oh my God, yeah. But I mean, you probably had your own interpretation of it too, but.
Yeah, no, I was a little, I'm not going to lie. Like, I was a little, like I said, I felt some anxiety. Like, I felt a little bit of fear of like, what is going on?
Yeah.
You know, like, because like these things that have literally never happened, like they're complications of my injury, of course, but they're things that have never happened before.
Yes.
Why are they happening now?
Right.
Right before I'm about to do something and talk something for the purpose of good.
Yep.
But that's why, you know, you can't let the fear stop you. You can't let the evil stop you. You know, you got to just move forward, right?
Totally.
So I'm glad that we continued.
Can I share? Wow, this ties back into what we were just talking about before we cut, which is darkness. And so you were saying there's a place for darkness, right? Darkness helps us grow. It's the impetus for growth. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. When I was depressed, or even before that, my life kind of fell apart before that. Before I went in the van and did the Found Humanity thing, it fell apart. And it was the most, it humbled me. I'm a really arrogant person, and I wish I weren't, but it made me realize that. And I'm still working out of it. And it's good. It's good because without those experiences, I would have never realized my own depravity. And by depravity, I mean arrogance and self-reliance and belief that I am
enough.
My own salvation. Enough.
Yeah. You don't need anybody or anything.
Right. And so in coming back to Christ, that was why I did that, was because actually, that's not true. That's not why I did it. It was what I learned about secret societies and darkness and how power operates that I realized there's a real intelligent evil in the world. But then the opposite of that, in my assessment, is Christ. And the whole theology of Christ is that God is outside of you, but he graciously offers salvation to you. And it's not through anything you do, because literally our nature is to go in a direction that is not righteous or is not necessarily moral. So this was reflected through my experience. That's why I said my experience led me back to Christ. It wasn't through anyone preaching to me. And I don't think that maybe there's a place for that, but my intention never has been and never will be to preach to anyone, because I don't think my story or my knowledge will save anyone. And you said, like, I'm not a Christian. I don't identify as a Christian right now, and I don't see that for the foreseeable future. And I was like, praise God.
Yeah, that's true. Huh?
It's like, that was my experience.
Yeah.
Fuck the evangelists who are like talking down your fucking throat of like why you should believe in Christ.
Right.
No.
Right.
That's not what I believe.
Yeah.
And you telling me on some materialistic way of why I should believe that is bullshit.
Yeah.
And I refuse to accept your proselytizing.
Well, the thing that, something that really resonated with me when I was, identifying as a Christian, I identified very heavily with a guy named Jefferson Bethke, and he has a very famous, it's actually what made him famous, a spoken word. So it's a video of poetry, and it's literally titled Jesus greater than religion, right? So the whole concept is, and just caveating off of what you just said of these certain people throwing this down your throat, whatever, religion was man-made. You know what I mean? It's evolved, and there's been so much division and breaking off of new different types. That's why there's so many different kinds and there's different rules.
Even within Christianity.
Right. So what I'm saying is like, that's not the way that if that story is fully true, or if that's the only truth, that's not the way he designed it to be. He designed it to love Jesus, and that's it. Love Jesus and love people and have a relationship with Jesus. And not
meaning God.
Yes. Right.
Universally.
Which is the Trinity, right? Like Jesus, God, and the Holy Spirit is one. It's one, but three distinct things, right? Like Jesus' Father is God, and then the Holy Spirit lives within you. If you're a born-again believer, the Holy Spirit lives within you, right? And what's trippy about that, kind of maybe getting off topic, I don't know if I'll be able to go back, but the Holy Spirit, when you believe, if you're a born-again believer and you believe in Jesus Christ, you accept the Holy Spirit into you. Right? That's like part of it. Like as soon as you identify and that you decide that you're a Christian and you believe that Jesus Christ is my Savior, that the story, the method is that the Holy Spirit now enters into you, and there is no going back from that. So the Holy Spirit is always, so there's this huge controversy of, if you're a believer, can you ever truly be an unbeliever? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because the Holy Spirit hypothetically lives within you, and that you can't escape that. You know what I mean? Like that decision is almost irrevocable. Now that doesn't give you free reign to go and mass murder the world and like do all this horrible, heinous stuff, knowing that you're saved now. But it's such an interesting concept to me that I just thought of while we were talking about this, about, because I identified as a Christian for a long time. So that means the Holy Spirit must live within me. So I think that I still am drawn and guided by God. I just think that I've disidentified with the story that I was taught, right? And I'm learning for myself what story or method I want to use. And I think that I can still be guided towards God with the Holy Spirit. I feel like I can still utilize Christianity
Totally.
and so many other things to get to where I want to go.
Yeah.
And if that changes, that changes. I'm open to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
People, listen.
You got to be open-minded. You have to be open-minded. You have to be
Yes.
willing to be wrong.
Yes.
You have to be willing to learn that there could be a different way. And if there is a different way, to change in that moment. You
Yes.
course correct. Right? I mean, like, that's the big problem with like how I grew up in my family, is they're so closed-minded that is the only path that they will ever entertain, even if there's credible knowledge presented to them, facts. It doesn't matter. They're just going to dismiss it, right? And I think that's the quickest way to spiritual death.
Yeah.
Intellectual death, spiritual death, everything.
Yep.
Not being open-minded. So, yeah, I think it's all interesting. I think it's all very interesting. I think the spiritual journey is one that is going to go in flux of ups and downs and waves for all of us our entire life. But I think it's very important. And I think that, something that we actually haven't talked about yet is one of the areas that I've considered as far as helping people, and what I think if I do this PsyD program, this psychology doctorate program, you have to do like a dissertation, you have to have a research topic, and I think that my field is going to be religious trauma syndrome.
Wow.
So there's a lot of trauma that is induced by religion.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot of people out there that have been hurt by religion, of course. Church hurt, you've heard the term. But even what I want to do is I want to be this person that can help people that are Christians, and I'm okay with that. That's fine. That's great, actually. But there's real pain and suffering that you're experiencing, that there's real tools that you can use to alleviate that suffering, that praying to God might not be the only option for you. Because I think there's a lot of Christians that will dismiss some real life tools you can use because it's not the Christian way.
Yep.
And they're suffering because they're only relying on praying. And I guess it's not my goal, and I don't know if it's going to be my actual path or purpose yet, but like I've had the idea before of like helping these identified Christians in life with tools that their Christianity is not giving them.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Christians need that, because there's a lot of times, like what you said, I forget the term of like believing the Bible literally, dispensational.
Yeah, dispensationalism.
That view of like, we have to take the Bible at its word and only practice what's exactly described in the Bible, and like everything else is secular. Like,
yeah,
so limiting.
And it creates so much division. Like the church I grew up in was like, it's us versus them. Like it is our cult of a church, and if you're not a part of our cult of a church, everybody else is going to hell, and we need to go save them. And that's how it was, really. And I'm not opposed to speaking like that on behalf of my experience with that church, but part of me does empathetically feel bad about talking like that, because there are some amazing human beings that go there,
Sure.
that are leaders there,
Right.
that I have no disrespect towards them as humans and their
Beautiful.
intentions.
Beautiful.
But the doctrine in which they presented to people is extremely dangerous and hurtful, and can cause a lot of problems. And yeah,
Especially for some, not everyone's built like you, in the sense that intellectually, like, you're a curious person, you're an explorer, you want to know the vast possibilities of truth.
Yeah.
And not everyone thinks that way.
right. Some people don't care. Ignorance is bliss, right? Sometimes I wish that I was ignorant. Sometimes that I wish that I didn't know some of the things that I knew. Sometimes I wish that I would have never taken a psychedelic or read the book or explored outside of Christianity. Because like I said, there was a time that I carried around a Bible and I was on fire for God and I didn't know any better. And I'm not saying that that's wrong. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm just saying that when you limit what you're exposed to, that is ignorance, is bliss, right? Like, so you're happy within what you know.
Yes.
But if you get presented with something that's contradicting to that, you can either accept it and then change what you know, or you can just dismiss it, which is ignorance is bliss, right? And I can't do that rationally. Like if I'm presented with something that makes more sense to me than what I'm currently operating under,
Yeah.
I then change to that, and then I change to that, and like
Same.
you can't. I think a lot of people are afraid to let themselves be that open to change, but I think you need to be. You have to be.
Mhm.
It's like the whole process of like always growing, right?
What happens if you don't allow yourself to be influenced by new information?
I think that you, I honestly, like, I feel really bad for like my mom, right? Like my mom, and I love my mom. I'm not very close to her, but, and she loves me a lot. She did everything that she possibly could have to try to present me with the best possible life she could. I don't hate her for any of the decisions she made as far as putting me within that church and stuff. But I see people like her and like my uncle and some people that,
This is beautiful what's happening right now.
yeah, it is. It's
Your
great.
story aligns with what's happening.
Yes, it is. And they don't care. It's funny. But, they're just not living much of a life.
Yeah.
There's so much beauty to life that when you limit yourself to a certain box, like you're just limiting everything. And
Yes.
like, I feel like there could be so much anxiety involved with that because you're not letting yourself step outside of your comfort zone to grow. Because that's what the growth is, when that's where the excitement is and that's where you feel alive. So I think that you're truly dying. Like, I feel like these people that limit themselves to this path are dying on earth before they die. You know what I mean?
Whoa.
So mentally, spiritually, emotionally, yeah. And I feel bad for that. But you know what? Like, there was a time that I used to try to like present my mom like the type of church that we grew up in, like what's wrong with it, and like the things that it's done to me and what it's doing to you, and like all these things. And like I got to the point where I've realized that she's like in her 60s and it's such a huge part of her life. It is her life. That there is no changing that. And I don't want to change that. Like she can't. That would uproot her entire existence.
Yeah.
And like, so if that's what makes her happy right now and that's what makes her feel calm and peaceful, then that's great.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean?
Oh, to kick it. That's so cool.
That
aligns so perfectly. If only they knew. That's so sick.
That's funny. Little buddy.
Wow.
Oh yeah, man. Deep talks.
I love it, man. See, this is I think a lot of people think about this stuff, but not a lot of people will have a chance to talk about it. And so to hear someone sharing about it is probably going to be really relieving to a lot of people.
Yeah. I think what I realized too, just through my life growing up and stuff, is that I've come to understand that obviously not everybody grew up how I grew up. Like not everybody grew up in this like very extreme fundamentalist Christian worldview. So even though I'm not really identifying and being a part of that right now, like I see so many people in my life at my age or older or younger, it doesn't matter, that are actually kind of maybe finding God for the first time in their life right now. And I think it's great. You know what I mean? Like I have no qualms towards that. I have no resistance towards that. Like I told you, I'm even open to being a Christian again, maybe if that time comes. But just understanding that we all grow up differently and we all have these unique experiences. Like I think we all have like things to offer
Totally.
each other.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
And that's why we're found humanity.
Well,
you know
that's
what I mean?
yes.
Yeah.
And I talk to people, bro. I talked to a guy who, in my estimation, is a Luciferian. Gnostic, believes that we should worship Satan as much as we should worship the opposite of Satan. That they're all equal, and that's a pretty popular philosophy. Like
It's crazy.
the darkness is to be worshipped. I don't think that. I think that God uses the darkness. It's just it's a slight difference is all it is, you know?
Yeah.
Because both of them acknowledge the place for darkness, you know?
Yeah.
Like the Bible talks about Job and that he went through all these suffering experiences, but God allowed it, you know? And it's just, that's the small difference is the language. Did God allow it or did God cause it, you know?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
then you worship a God that causes darkness, and that's a different God.
Wow.
You know?
Wow, that's really deep to think about. Yeah, because Job is the suffering servant. He went through so much suffering. And, that's a trippy thought. Like, did God allow this or did God cause this, right? And then when I think about my own accident, right? Did God cause this to put me in my place because you had all the chances you wanted, but here, I'm going to make it happen for you, right? Or did God just allow it and he's using this, Like, that's a very trippy thought right there. And I don't know.
Decide.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. I say that facetiously, of course.
Yeah.
As if we have to decide right now.
I think it's a little bit of both, though.
Yeah.
I think that God does induce some suffering because he knows that it's good for us. Like we keep talking about. It's a resounding theme. Like,
yeah, no, I agree.
We need suffering. We need trials. We need tribulations. And it's the only growth we have as humans. That's where we strive. That's why I loved when I was in the military going out to a place called 29 Palms, right? We're in the middle.
29 Palms?
We're in the middle of the desert for 2 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, and I loved it because guess what? I would pretty much leave my phone in our little hut. We had a hut out there, felt like you're in Iraq or something. I mean, That's the whole point.
That's so crazy.
Because you have a little hut and you leave your phone there because there ain't no service. And you're just grinding all day, every day, disconnected from the world, disconnected from your girlfriend, disconnected from social media, just grinding. Things that, honestly, you don't always want to do either. There's some physical things involved with the military, clearly, training and stuff that you don't want to do. There's a lot of stuff that you don't want to do, but you just do it. And then you ultimately end up feeling, I never felt more of a thriving environment than in that environment. Because of the limitations of the things that bring you escape, joy, pleasure. So, yeah, I mean, it's all suffering. There's a purpose for it.
Yes.
And God knows what he's doing, man.
Yeah, he does. What I mean? He fucking does. And I trust that.
Yeah.
I don't fear learning new information anymore. That was something that's the...
And I think God wants us to be intellectual beings.
Yes.
He wants us to learn everything there is and make our own decisions. That's fine. You know what I mean? I think he wants us to explore. He wants us to, because ultimately we're going to be led back to him in whatever way that means. You know what I mean? And that's what he wants for us. Yeah.
I need to say something. I've never thought of this before.
Yeah.
There's materialism, there's spirituality, there's objectivity, subjectivity, right? There's all this plane of how you can view the world.
Mm-hmm.
People choose objectivity as a god. They'll say that if you are too far over here, that's bullshit. The objective world is true. That's atheism. That's materialism.
Right.
So people worship this worldview. But the reality is that God encompasses all of it, I think. Now I think God is all of it. And he's given us the ability to see from an objective lens and a subjective spiritual lens. But if we choose one narrow way of seeing things or whatever, then we miss the bigger picture of the reality of it all.
1000%.
And that's what the esoteric theology thinks too. The secret knowledge is the melding of symbolism with the form. The form is the subjective, the highest of high or whatever. And then the intangible with the tangible, which would be a symbol or whatever. And now my theology of God is more of he's all of it. And you can see it from different lenses or whatever.
Yeah.
But I wish I had the language to describe this better. But
No, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
And, Ram Dass says some really funny things about how, and this is an interesting one to grasp, and you may or may not agree with it, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with it, but he'll talk to people or give lectures, and lead with the fact that, like, you know, like, I am God,
Yeah.
but also you are God.
Yes.
We're all God, you know, but that is very different than the Christian worldview of there is one God or three in one, whatever, right? But we are here, there, He's there. That is a very different thing, that we're all God, right? And that's what I'm exploring right now. And I honestly don't have enough experience to talk about that further. Hopefully we can do a podcast, you know, a couple of years down the road.
And you're like,
And we do more, but I think that's a very interesting worldview that I am after right now. You know, understanding that I am
and
God.
I hope you
and you are
understand it
God.
more. And
Yeah.
I hope I do too, because you know what? I haven't studied it enough to know the full extent of it.
Yeah.
But I hope that people aren't scared of that
Yeah.
idea.
People are, though. People are. Yeah.
They sure are.
Yeah. And the reason I think that people cling to, and I'm not saying it's wrong, because, you know, I know that you've identified as a Christian now, and I'm not saying that I won't ever again, but people cling to these things because it gives them a sense of safety and security.
Yeah.
And an answer for the afterlife.
Yes.
And so there's nothing wrong with that. That's great, right? But, like, I think that was, along with giving morals to a society, I think that there's a lot of reasons that this works and why it's so widespread, you know what I mean?
Totally.
But there's a lot, like I said, there's so many great things with it. And I think it's a great tool to access God, you know?
Yeah.
Which is yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your most enlightened state.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is not everybody is truth seekers like we are. I don't think everybody cares about being enlightened or communicating with God. I think a lot of people that are Christians in the Western society go to feel good, to check it off the box, to have that sense of community, and it makes them feel good because their life is hard. And you can go get a pastor up there that'll speak a presentation that'll make you feel good and get you all hyped up for the week. And boom, when you go back to living your simple ways, you have no relationship with what really God is. You know what I mean? So I think that there's just not a lot of people, actually. I think that it's a rarity of people that actually do want to grow and have that truth-seeking enlightenment.
Totally.
Yeah. So I'm excited for both of us.
Yeah, me too.
You know, I mean, you're 32, I'm 31. I mean, we have a long ways to go of life. So,
Yeah.
and being open-minded means
Yes.
you never know where that's going to go.
It's true.
So
It's true. It's very true.
But I do like how, you know, you had the realization earlier about how, you know, if you, right now you've identified as a Christian again and you found solace in that, and how that is kind of a limited path. But that is true, because that means that you believe that Christianity right now is your truth, which means that all this other stuff is not. So of course that's a limited path, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm excited to hear where your growth goes with that. Yeah.
Dude, could I? Okay, this was the point when we were talking about darkness that I wanted to share.
Okay.
Which is that at my most depressed state when I was suicidal, I'd given up, I'd lost faith in myself. And if I'm God, then I've failed. Or maybe I've misunderstood. Perhaps that's another way of looking at it. I've misunderstood myself. But I felt like I had been shown my purpose or my calling in life, and I'd forsaken it. I had given up on my Found Humanity mission, and I stopped living in accordance to my purpose. And I had, in my own strength and ability, not followed through on that. And then the whole doctrine of Christianity, now that I look back on it and have learned about it again, I realize is the idea that God is outside of me, that I'm not God. And that's really the fundamental difference that I cling to right now. And it is different, like you're saying. But I cling to that because it really is, the whole point for me is that salvation is outside of myself. And that, to me, ontologically speaking, is the most humbling thing that you can embrace on a metaphysical level, is that my own knowledge or my own doings is not enough to become enough.
Right.
And that's why I became a Christian again, is because that is,
He makes you enough.
it's maybe it's not the only religion that preaches that, right? I'm sure there's others. Like, I even Googled that, like, either today or yesterday. What are other religions that espouse that idea of divine grace? I think Sikhism and like Sufis believe that too. But like, it's the longest standing one. It's
Yeah.
the most like, it's definitely like, so I have a lot of questions still.
Of course.
I'm very fresh back into this all, but
clearly you're very intelligent and you've done a lot of research. You're throwing a lot of terms out there that I think a lot of people have no idea what you're talking about, honestly. But I know what you're talking about because I went to divinity school, so like ontological thinking and stuff like that. It's clear to me that you're doing your research. You're trying to find truth for yourself. You know what I mean?
totally. And for me, the biggest thing was like, I gave up on myself. That's why I wanted to kill myself, was because I had reached my wit's end. And I think for anyone who has experienced suicidal thoughts, who is not a believer in God, like I was, it comes down to a loss of faith in yourself. Because at the end of the day, that's all there is, if from that worldview.
Yeah.
And in order for me to continue, there had to be some sort of divine order to the universe, which I had experienced prior to that through synchronicity. There has to be a divine metaphysical influence that's occurring that's outside of me. And that's why I came back to Christianity, was because I was realizing, oh, salvation is something that's beyond me personally, or my ability to learn or achieve, or else I would have achieved that. And I hated myself. And that's why, at least the story, because right, I never saw Christ rise from the grave, you know, I never saw that, or I never will see that.
Yeah.
It's a faith. It's a belief in faith, and I'll never see that. So that is literally, it's a belief in a story.
Yeah.
But I align with that story.
Right.
And that view of God, and that's why I'm a Christian. And that's not the, what's the word again? The this is what the Bible says in the
dispensationalism.
It's not the same as that.
Right.
It's like the story of Christ.
Yeah.
That is my view of God.
So
I don't know. Maybe that's heretical to a lot of Christians, but that's okay though. That's what saved me.
Because you talked to me once about how you admired, and I think that's why another reason you wanted to have this conversation about this particular subject with me is because you said, I kind of have a unique view on God and religion and Christianity, right? Like, because even when I think when I first met you, I think I was still identified. No, maybe not, but I would throw around the words God, and like, I would do. I had a unique twist on Christianity, at least when I was a Christian. I'll just put it that way, right? Like, you say that it might be viewed as heretical, what you're saying,
yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
I was the same way. Like, my views were this is what I believe. Like, even growing up for me, like, I used to say, like, well, I believe in God, I believe in heaven, but I don't believe in hell. Like, that's ridiculous. Nobody would burn in hell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
But, like,
what loving God would send people to hell.
Right.
Yeah.
But, like, if you go to this dispensationalism, and, like, of course that's real because it's true, because it's in the Bible and it says it's true. And I just couldn't get down with that, right? So I love where you're at with that, right? Like, you found a truth that means that it works for you,
Yes.
and it makes sense to you, and it has to do with something outside of yourself that is Jesus Christ and his story and him, but not some of the other details that don't matter. You know what I mean? And I think that's awesome, and like, honestly, like I said, like, parts of me, like, like I miss some of that, to be honest, right? So, like, and that's stuff that I can continue to do. Like, I could go and read the Bible and go do some of these things, like, and that's what I'll probably do, right? Like, but I'll also go read the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah,
and, like,
I saw that.
These
I'm like,
other things, right?
fucking
Like,
sick. Not many Christians do what you're doing, and I respect the hell out of that, honestly.
Yeah.
I've never done that.
Yeah. Because I'm seeking, I still don't know my full truth when it comes to what I believe metaphysically. And that's why, I really want the opportunity to travel to Asia or India and these other places that, practice some of these other beliefs and like spirituality type stuff. I just really want that experience. So I'm hoping that I get that. Yeah, to continue to evolve my whatever I decide that I believe for myself, right?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I wish that for you.
Yeah.
And you'll have to report back because I want to know too.
Thank you. Thank you.
What it teaches you about metaphysics and people's view of that, because there's so much to be gained from learning that.
Right.
Truly.
Yeah. I think my first and next practical step towards all this is I'm going to attend a 10-day meditation retreat. And I haven't signed up for it yet, but like I'm in a meditation course or seminar through a college that I used to go to. It's kind of funny. I think of Steve Jobs vibes. So he used to drop into college classes when he wasn't even a student there. And he actually learned calligraphy and all these things that helped him form Apple. And he wasn't even a student there. He just used to go sit in on these classes, right? Because just gaining knowledge. Well, I got this email about this 8-week meditation seminar that I've been attending, and I don't even go to school there. And I just go to their class, and it's so awesome, though. And I connected with the professor, and he's done a handful of like meditation retreats where it's like 10-day silent retreat. Checking your phone when you get there, you don't get to touch it, and you're just meditating for 13 hours a day. And that's it. That's all you do for 10 days straight. And it's probably insane and very hard. And that is something that has been pulling my strings for not just that encounter, but previously another encounter with a guy that I met at the ayahuasca retreat that I did. And that is probably what's next for me as far as exploration, mindfulness, and spiritual growth.
Wow.
Because I think there's a lot that you can learn from. I think meditation is so powerful, and I think it's something that not a lot of people in our culture and time, this fast-paced world, understand. You know what I mean? Because we live so fast. And the whole premise of meditation is to completely slow down and to let go and to not identify with all these thoughts. Because I have a monkey mind, dude. I am neurotic. My mind is non-stop. So meditation is teaching me to just recognize those thoughts and then let them go. You know what I mean? And I think the more that we can practice that skill, the better we all will be. And that's a perfect example of, there's this Christian girl that's in my life that she's suffering with anxiety really bad. So I offered to her 2 books that actually our friend Austin Shuttler, recommended it to me. I
love Austin.
The Untethered Soul.
What a loving being.
Oh yeah,
I love that dude.
He's on his way. He's an enlightened being. he's
joyful for.
He's very he's done a lot of work, I think, on himself, and he's done a lot of practice into the Eastern spirituality and meditation and yoga.
Yes.
And you can tell when you're around him, right?
Totally.
And that's exactly how I felt when I met him. Like I was just like, I want to be that guy. I want to be his friend too, and I want his hair. I'm getting there, bro. Like, coming for you. But so man, what was I saying though with him?
The girl, that Christian.
Oh, the Christian girl, right? Like she's suffering with anxiety right now. So I offer her these 2 books that are life-changing books. I know I keep dropping books on here. The Untethered Soul and The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And I think Austin at least recommended me to The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, who's also a spiritual teacher. And it's one of the greatest books ever. And it just helps you so much. Just like understand your mind, manage your mind, your thoughts, meditation, spirituality. And you can be a Christian and still utilize these tools in this book. But
totally, I bet.
She's a perfect example though of like she's scared to. I think she thinks I'm the devil trying to sway her from Christianity. But I'm like, no, you can still be a Christian and utilize this practice. But off topic now, those are great tools. That's a great resource. Those 2 books. Yeah.
Beautiful. And to corroborate what you're saying, whether or not she thinks that, we don't know, right? You probably never talked about it, but I think a lot of Christians do feel that way.
Yeah,
And I tend to think like,
because they're being closed-minded, to be honest.
yes,
Out of fear, to be
out of
honest.
fear.
They think that we're, because that's part of the story. At least some stories, some churches' stories, is that like, there's spiritual warfare and there's hidden devils out there, right? Like, so I'm telling you something that isn't just the Bible, like, and then the fear is this person the devil trying to sway me away,
right.
But I don't think that that's the case, really, because I
Yeah.
used to think that way.
Yeah,
I used to be scared of people outside of my religion. You know what I mean?
totally.
But then I realized that there's so much practical resources out there and so much knowledge and just insight and just so much stuff out there that isn't just within the Bible or in Christianity. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And you need to be open-minded to that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was just something I thought of there. Yeah.
That's beautiful, man. I love this.
Yeah. It's been fun.
Any closing thoughts for the people of the world?
Oh, well, we talked about a lot of things today. We talked about suffering. We talked about spirituality. We talked about religion. I would say that we talked about darkness. I think my closing statement to anybody out there right now has a lot to do with what you asked me in regards to one of the main things that I've learned from my season of suffering that I'm going through is just never give up, never stop learning, never say never, and to remain open-minded and enjoy life. It's a beautiful journey through all the ups and downs. It's a beautiful journey, and it's all up to you on whether or not you perceive it as such. We create a lot of our own misery, but you can totally change your perception on a lot of things and laugh about it. Don't take life so serious. You know what I mean? I'm paralyzed right now, and I'm chilling. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So now to live out the words that I say, that's a daily battle. But we're all human. We all say things, and then you gotta live out what you just said, right? That's a struggle we all have, right?
Yep.
So, but the idea is there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that was good, man. I think that was good.
Yep.
That was awesome. It was fun.
It was. You're awesome. You're fun.
You're awesome, and you're fun.
Thank you.
And Beelzebub did not stop us.
No, he did not.
Fuck you, evil goat.
Fuck out of here, dog. My friends, if you want to sign up for Tanner's life coaching, you can click the link in the bio on YouTube or the description on YouTube. Or if you're on Instagram, you can find it on YouTube. Same with Spotify.
Yeah. Just come listen to me talk, share lessons that I've learned, and hopefully be able to help somebody. It was great to share the space with you.
You too, man. Thank you. I honor you.
Seriously. All right. Peace.
Peace.